Mom. How are you?
Well, I'm doing very well, and I'm very excited because today on Call Your Mom, we have another mom
Yeah.
and another child. Our first guest, of course, it has to be a Hall of Famer, Rebecca Lobo, and her beautiful daughter, Siobhan. Hi.
Hi. So excited to be here.
This is perfect because you have another mother and then another child who doesn't really call their mother.
I call my mother. The mother doesn't pick up.
Oh, we're just into it. We are already into it. So, we did start this podcast because we are very curious about how adult children have relationships with their parents, because I think we do a good job, but we could definitely be better. So Siobhan, I'm going to start with you. You've gone away to college. You are a sophomore in college, and you are forging this wonderful career. You just had your first article that you wrote. You are doing lots of really cool things with your life. How often is appropriate to call your mother?
I feel like I just call her probably on average a couple of times a week, usually just when I'm bored or if I need something. But a lot of times the timing doesn't work out. So she'll pick up driving and it'll be FaceTime audio. Okay, never mind. And yeah, I feel like texting's a lot more common just because schedule wise, I'm free at night and then she'll be free another time.
So this is Holly, I'm going to jump in. So first of all, I much prefer to talk on the phone than to FaceTime because I want to do multiple things. So Siobhan she's not interested in having the conversation. She's more interested in the FaceTime. And when she says she calls when she's bored, that means she just wants to talk about nothing for 25, 30 minutes. And it's usually at a time where I'm not bored and am busy. So I want to communicate with her. I do want to talk with her, but just not so what's going on? Nothing. I'm just bored. And it has to be looking at her being bored. I can talk to her while she's bored and still do other things, but no, she wants me engaged and looking at her while she's bored.
Okay, well, I was going to say, I think how does it make you feel that she calls you when she's bored or wants something? McKylin, when do you call me?
When I remember to. I think it's I haven't talked to her in a little bit. Let me give her a call. Never bored. I'm surprised by the bored. Why would you call her when you're bored?
When I'm bored. When I have time
to do something. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense. Because I don't call you and be oh, I'm just kind of sitting here, nothing to do. What's going on?
And see, I guess so first and foremost, Rebecca Lobo and I, we've worked together for almost 20 years now. Siobhan, I think I met you when you were 4 years old, 3 years old. So when we say our families have literally grown up together, and I know we are very different parents, but Rebecca, I would die for my son to call and want to talk to me for 30 minutes while he's bored. I would literally pray to the gods, thank you. You don't love that?
Well, would you if he was just sitting there and not saying anything and just trying to fill the time? And we have the interesting dynamic too that Siobhan is really close with her dad. And so this past weekend, Siobhan's out at Notre Dame visiting her cousins, going to football games, having a blast. And it's midday on Saturday. I'm about to fly out, Holly, to do our game down in North Carolina. And I said, oh, I wonder if Siobhan's having a good time. I haven't heard from her. And Steve's oh, she's been texting me all morning, sending me pictures, this and that. And so Siobhan is actually a closer communicator. Wouldn't you agree, Siobhan? You are closer a communicator with your father than you are with me. And Holly, I know that would really hurt your feelings.
I would be so competitive about that. That would make me crazy. What? She texted you? What? She heard from you.
But to be fair, I think that does happen with you. You, Mom, text Rebecca more things and send pictures of what you're doing more than you send them to me. So, I mean, Rebecca, I'm 90% sure that you knew everywhere my mom was for the past week.
Many of the places, probably.
Guess how many places she told me? I just found out she was in Indianapolis today because I looked at her location. I follow your location.
So Holly, here's a question. When you have a son McKylin's age, do you still look at his location? Do you check in?
I don't.
Because when parents have college-age kids, and I'm pretty good about this, we don't have Life 360. If I'm just curious, has Siobhan made it home from the concert she's working or something like that, we might take a quick look. But I know a lot of parents who are constantly, because out of worry, checking their kid's location. We don't do that. So I was curious if you do that as a parent of an older kid.
I do not do that, most importantly because McKylin does not share his location with me. But I love that he has mine, because I would say I'm out and about more than he is, so he knows where I am. We had a couple of times last year where I would call him and I would say, I'm driving, I'm in the middle of a cornfield in Iowa trying to get to Caitlin Clark's game, and I'm falling asleep at the wheel. I just need you to know where I am in case you don't hear from me. So like, I think I share with him. McKylin, why don't you share your location with me? That's a great question.
I thought I did. I'll be honest. I thought that that was a reciprocal. I didn't know you could just see somebody's location and not share with them. So I will go and change that. But
yeah, I would like to know, because I think I do worry. Like, oh, I haven't heard from him for a couple of days. You know, wonder what's going on. I wouldn't check it all the time though. I think kids should have autonomy, which leads me to my next question. And then McKylin, you have questions for them too. But my next question was going to be, because our kids grew up together, and you know, we would be often going through similar parenting issues as our kids were young. You were a much more strict parent than I was. I think I was a more permissive parent than you. What have you done since Siobhan's been at college? And actually, Siobhan, I'm going to start this question for you, and then Rebecca, you jump in. How strict has your mom been while you've been at college about what time you're getting home? Where are you? You know, like, how do you guys navigate kind of your boundaries now that you're older?
I don't think she's strict at all. I feel like there hasn't been like one time I've like broken a rule at college. Maybe that's just because I'm also not like trying to do anything crazy, like stay out all night in like another state or something. But I feel like she doesn't.
Well, she was going to let you go to spring break after your freshman year, and I was hysterical about it. I was like, "We're not letting a young woman go to spring break, are we? Did you go to spring break?"
Yeah, she let me go to spring break. She wasn't really strict on spring break either. I don't know. We were staying at a hotel. I maybe she checked my location. I'm honestly not sure, but she wasn't being nothing too crazy.
Oh, that's good.
I'm strict with the kids when they're in the house, just like I feel like they need to obey certain rules. Like, for example, if it's a law that you're not supposed to drink before you're 21, then I'm not going to let you drink in my house. I'm not going to let your friends drink in my house. If it's the law that you're not allowed to drive a sibling or a friend till a certain age, like I'm not going to allow those things either. And Siobhan, like, you know, she didn't give me any reason for anything other than that. But then when they're off to college, because her younger sister's off to college too, like they're on their own. And how I feel is they can communicate with me as much as they want to communicate with me. But I know what I did in college. And I think it's such a big part of growing up. And even, you know, Holly Siobhan was with us last year when we were in Paris, and she was 18. And here in the US, she's not allowed to drink, but the legal drinking age over there is 18. So if she wanted to have a glass of champagne, she's going to have a glass of champagne, right? Like, I just feel like as they get older, we have to be strict when they're young so that they learn how to behave and how to do things. But then that's all in preparing for them to go off to college and then to be able to live their lives. So that's kind of how I have looked at it with her.
I don't know how strict you were, Mom, at all. You were strict when you were home. I'll give you that. But then also you made me drive myself to school with my learner's permit all the time.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, this is a bad story. So usually on this podcast, Rebecca and Siobhan, just so you know, we're mostly just talking about things I've done wrong as a parent. So feel free to pipe
funny
in.
Stories. Funny stories.
Funny stories is I did have him drop me off at the airport. Sometimes it was out of necessity. And I remember thinking, I hope he doesn't get pulled over on the way home from dropping me off at the airport, because he'll probably get arrested and that will be my fault.
Because
Because
he didn't have his license?
Was expired. Yeah. She put me in a car with an expired registration and no license.
You're ratting yourself out now.
And hey, I'm fine. I was a minor. What are some stories that your mom tells, like her coworkers or people that you kind of look up to, that are clearly not true and make you look kind of bad?
I don't know.
Mom, does that happen? Does she do that?
I feel like I can't really think of an instance where she's done that. Mom, can you think of anything?
No, but you tell a lot of stories, and I don't want you to share some of them here. She's like, Mom, remember when you did this when we were little and you said this? And I'm like, there's no way I said that. That's a horrible thing for a mother to say. And like, and I know And I know she's probably right, but like when your kids are little and you're like just trying to stay above water, you do and say things that you're not proud of. And then you forget them. Well, she has an incredible memory. So she'll bring back stuff. Remember you said this, that this. I'm like, oh God, please don't ever say that again. That's awful.
So Siobhan is the rat. Okay.
Siobhan's the rat, yes.
I don't rat to anyone else, just to her. I'll be like, why would you, like, something will happen related to it. And I'll be like, remember when you said this? And I was like in 4th grade. And she's like, I did.
I didn't say that, did I really? That's awful.
I think parents and Rebecca, this is something I don't know if our listeners and our fans that are fans of you and your career, you know, obviously Hall of Famer, great player at UConn, all the things, but like you've been raising 4 children. So I have some really vivid memories of us working together, and you had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and then you were pregnant again, and then you had 2 you're breastfeeding one, and Thomas is at the Final Four with us running around the room as he's 4. And I mean, I don't know if people understand having 4 children and the career you do. How have you done this? And Siobhan, what did you see from your mom as she's like trying to juggle all this and have this high profile career?
Go ahead, Siobhan.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, when we were little, she would always like, we would just be like all hanging out on the couch or like by her desk or something. And she would just like always be doing her, I don't know what you call them, Mom, your sheets with all your
My boards, yeah.
The boards.
and you like, Siobhan, can, like, this has only happened a couple times. You'd be like, Siobhan, can you look this up? And then I would always like look up the wrong thing. You're like, never mind, I'll just like look it up. But I guess when you were younger, I mean, we were probably of no help, but sometimes we'd be like, oh, can I look this up for you? I remember before the draft in like middle school, I was like, could I look up something for you? And you were like, no, like, I don't know, I don't want you to do it wrong. And I was like, okay.
Sometimes we'll say to Siobhan, we're like, oh, you've been to Seattle before, or you've been to Sacramento. And she's like, I have. Well, yeah, you were an infant. Because when she was first born, that was 2004. And then the summer of 2005, it was my 2nd year doing sideline for the WNBA. And so she and Steve, we'd go everywhere together because she was only, I don't know, 6 months old. And so I was still nursing. And so she would travel to all these places. And then, of course, after we had more than one kid, we couldn't do that anymore. But yeah, Holly, like I've had some of our coworkers, Sarah Guerrero was talking to me about, she's like, oh, I remember being in a car with you once driving to the airport and you were in the back pumping. Of course I was. I had an infant at home and like just trying to juggle all of that. And we had a lot of support. Steve was here. We had a great babysitter, Tara. And I'm sure you heard me talk about her over the years. But sometimes I look back and I think like, holy cow, that was a lot. And even now when I'm doing work and prepping for games, I'm like, this is so easy. The kids are off at school. I'm here. I can just like do work versus, you know, trying to navigate having, you know, at one point we had 4 kids, all of them at home, none of them in school yet. And I'm working and Steve's working. And it was a lot. And hopefully like the girls haven't been, and Thomas haven't been scarred too much from that. Hopefully they've seen like an example of somebody who works hard, who loves what she does, right? And is still home. Because, you know, there have been a few things I've missed over the years, Siobhan, that have broken my heart. Like your first prom, I was down in DC. I had to call a Mystics game. I missed that. Is that the prom where your dress, where the strap broke?
I remember this. Yes,
Yep.
she had a wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it was my sister who was there, who has boys but not a girl, and friends who are like helping her through all of this. And those are the things like you're like, I should be there. I should be the one helping her. And then
No, you don't want to be there. I was in such a bad mood when that happened. I was like yelling at like everyone, how they fixed it. You didn't
well,
want
of
to
course, like, yeah, but still, like those are the times, you know. And then so I made sure for her sister, like, you know, I wasn't working. I was going to be home for her prom. And Maeve was like, oh, I don't want you to help me. Siobhan, can you come and help me get ready and whatever? And I was like, oh, when you make sure to be there, they don't want you.
Siobhan, okay. So one thing I think that sometimes maybe McKylin, maybe you a little bit, do you think you ever take it for granted that your mom is like really famous and a celebrity, or are there cool things that you've gotten to do because of who she is that really stand out to you?
Yeah, I definitely think going to the ESPYs was probably the coolest thing ever. I still think about it to this day. All those photos are like all of my favorites and everything. And then also at my mom's jersey retirement, sitting directly behind Kobe Bryant and Gigi and meeting them both. Those are probably my top 2.
Bring up 2 things from those ESPYs. Number one, the 3 of us are there together. Holly, you can talk about our sleeping arrangements while we were
Well,
there.
you called me like a few days before and you're like, I'm fine. I'm taking Siobhan to the ESPYs for the first time ever. You have to be there. And so I like drop everything in my life. I'm like, of course I've got to be there and support you and your daughter. So, and plus, let's just be honest, I'm more fun than you are. And so I didn't want her to be at the ESPYs without me, honestly.
Wow.
Of course, and like
It was a public
part of my thinking was like, when the night's over for me and I need to go to bed and she still needs to party, at least she'll have Holly there with her. But like, obviously it's not like you could just not, oh, I need a room in LA next week. So you come, you stay with us.
We had a slumber party.
We had a
very small room.
We're in a room with two, not twin, but like full-size beds. Siobhan and I, 6'2" and 6'4", like snuggling up with each other. But we're going to the ESPYs at night and about to walk the red carpet. And like, generally, if there's a red carpet and you can walk in front of it or like just sneak behind it, I'm the sneak behind kind of person. And you guys are like, no, we are walking this red carpet. And you and Siobhan are both saying, all right, when it's time to take pictures, stands with your hands on your hips like this, whatever.
You were just like,
so we go through and like, why don't I just stand like I normally would? So I do whatever you guys, I think I do what you guys tell me. And I get to the end and you're both like, what were you doing? That's not how you were supposed to stand.
Oh my gosh. I hope I can find these photos because it looked like your hands were cardboard cutouts of yourself. I was like, what are you doing?
It's so awkward. It's so awkward. And then, so the night before the ESPYs, we go to a Players Tribune party. We have an absolute blast, the three of us. But it was kind of like an all ages deal. The night of the ESPYs, first of all, we go back to the actual ESPY party at the hotel, and all the, the athletes are there. Siobhan's getting pictures with Klay Thompson. Who else, Siobhan? Suni Lee.
John Hamm.
John Hamm.
You were hanging out with John Hamm. So we're at the pool at this party, and Holly, you and I are like, ooh, there's a place to sit. So you and I sit down, and Siobhan's like, this 18-year-old college kid. She's like, we're at a party with all these people. Are you just gonna sit there? And so fortunately, to her credit, so she goes and starts hanging out with Cameron Brink and some of the other college athletes who are there who are more her age, and then just walking around and meeting people and hanging out with people and just absolutely having what I assume was the time of her life. But then we're going from there, and Holly, you're like, we have to go to this other party. This is LeBron James's party.
Because it's the more exclusive party. Yeah, it's the more exclusive party, and it's hard to get into, and it's like everyone wants to go to this party.
Yeah, but Holly's on the list, right? I don't know if Siobhan and I were on the list, even as your plus one, but you were on the list. So you were going to go to this party, and we were coming with you. So we're waiting in this line, and Siobhan's like a little bit worried that she's not going to be able to get in. And I just love the memory, and Siobhan, I'd like to hear from your point of view, but Miss Rowe, but just sternly saying to you, act like you're supposed to be here, because if we get up to the front and you're all nervous and we can't get in because you're not acting like you're supposed to be here.
Yeah, I was like, be cool.
I didn't think you were mad or annoyed at me at all. I think I was just like, yeah, she's probably right. Like, I don't know. I feel like if I was freaking out more, it would have definitely sabotaged everyone.
Right. Like, you needed to pretend like you've been there and you're used to going into parties, and you were like, I don't know. What about I don't know. And I was just like, oh my God, act like you've been here. Put your shoulders up.
Once you guys got inside, you certainly acted like you were supposed to be there, because the two of you had an absolute blast.
We danced literally for hours, right? And your mom sat on the couch. We danced with everybody.
Can I just say, I had a blast watching the two of you. Like, there's just something about, if you're not dancing, that's okay. There's something about watching people you really, really care about having the time of their lives. And in that moment, to me, it was more about watching the two of you experience this together, and especially Siobhan, than it was like experiencing it myself.
I think the other really cool thing was when your jersey got retired at UConn, and I made sure that me and McKylin, we drove up several hours from New York City. Like, we drove through a blizzard. We were going to be there for sure. But we were not the coolest people there supporting you that day. So Siobhan, who were you guys sitting by? Tell us that story.
We were sitting directly behind Kobe Bryant and Gigi Bryant. And I didn't even realize that until I think it was the national anthem. They stood up and my dad was like nudging me, like, look who's in front of us. It's Kobe Bryant. I was like, what? No way. And yeah, I remember just taking a bunch of photos and my mom got up to see him. And like, I have a photo of them hugging and like seeing each other, photos of my mom, Kobe, and Gigi together. I myself have a photo with Kobe, I think. And he was giving me basketball advice, rebounding advice, which is super cool, especially looking back on it, even cooler. And like my mom said, obviously so sad, especially now when a lot of people will do memorial, like in memoriams for Kobe posts or on the news or whatever. A lot of photos are from that day. So I was telling my mom that like my dad will be like photobombing some of those photos, and it's just like so surreal to have had that experience.
I want to bring up one other thing going back to the ESPYs, and like we have some great pictures of the three of us and Mr. Rucco. By the way, my kids, since they've known you guys since they've been little, it's Miss Rowe and Mr. Rucco. We have some great pictures, but Holly doesn't let anyone use them because why, Hol?
Okay, well, first of all, my dress was not cute. I was very chubby, bad dress. But we had gone to Tao. I took you guys to Tao, this gorgeous restaurant in LA, and then the Players Tribune party was right next door. Well, of course, I dropped like, I don't know, spicy eggplant or something down the front of my dress. And I had, when I say 2 huge grease spots on my dress, and we go walk the red carpet at the Players Tribune, and I mean, giant grease spots. I'm like, why can't I ever be normal? Every time we're around together, like something's wrong with my outfit, it's just constant.
No, so you look great.
The moral of the story is beware of the spicy eggplant.
Yeah.
Not everybody likes a spicy eggplant. So one thing I'm proud of is like, I try to be the fun aunt, and like Siobhan has been living in New York City. She comes with her mom to some of these big events in New York, but you've been young. You haven't always been of legal age. So what do you remember about us trying to get into a draft after party at a beautiful rooftop terrace one night?
Well, you had told my mom and I that we were going to go to this rooftop right near where the draft was held in Soho. And we get there. And well, first of all, I remember, I think it was on the 18th floor or something. And my mom has a thing with elevators. And she at first was like, oh, I'm going to take the stairs. So that was my first impression. And then
I sucked it up and I got on this tiny little elevator and that looked like it could get stuck on any floor. And we got up to the 18th floor.
Yeah.
And we get out and there's a bouncer there and they're like checking IDs. And what happened next?
What happened next? So we're waiting in line. I'll step in for you here, Siobhan. So Miss Rowe makes the reservation at a 21 and over place, and we're getting up there and I'm like, oh no, you know, Holly's been looking forward to this. This is a really nice place. We've all been looking forward to coming here, and now we're gonna have to leave. But instead, the guy comes over, Siobhan pulls out her ID, shows it to him, and then
a form of ID.
A form of ID. And so we get in, and then she says to me, like, I hope you're not mad that I have this. And I was like, mad? I'm thrilled because now we don't have to leave and go somewhere else. And then she just said to me after a beat or two, don't tell Dad.
We went to Rebecca's Jersey retirement in Connecticut. What do you remember about us going to Rebecca's Jersey retirement?
It was a long drive. I think I probably slept. And then I remember Kobe was there. And it was really emotional, and that's bad. Yeah, and I remember being really cool. I was like, oh wow, this is like there was a lot of people there. Everybody was really excited.
I love that your first memory was not that Kobe was there, but that it was a long drive.
yeah.
Because your mom surprised me. I didn't know. You didn't tell me that you were coming to that hall. That was one of the couple of times that you have surprised me at a big event.
Oh, I didn't know that you didn't know we were going to be there.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Sometimes you want to show up and support your friends, but don't make it a big deal like they're supporting you. You know, like, hi, we're just here to support you because we love you.
Fair.
Okay, one last thing before we let you get out of here, Mom, or McKylin, we're just talking about, like, is there anything, like, something you've gotten to do because your parent was famous that you like, it's just my mom, I don't care that she's famous, but anything that you were like, okay, well, that was cool.
I'm trying to think. A million things. I mean, being on the field during the Rose Bowl last year was pretty. That was a pretty big one. I mean, and we also hung out with Jason Sudeikis. That's also a pretty big one. Like meeting him because he's one of our heroes from Ted Lasso, and like that show has been such a big show for us. So that was another really great one.
Siobhan, you've gotten to meet him and hang out with him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met him a couple times after a game at Barclays.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's up there.
Yeah.
He was a hero. So because my mom's job is so cool, we got to meet a hero.
Yeah. Shout out my mom's candle behind her. Mom, don't you have a Jason Sudeikis?
It's actually Ted Lasso candle more than it is the Sudeikis candle.
Well,
and it's only to me very, very funny because it's next to Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, like as a trio. That
show us those. Show us those.
The candles individually, to me, they're like, I guess somebody told me they're prayer candles. I didn't even know prayer candles were a thing. So that's Angel. So we're in northern Minnesota on vacation, and my kids text me and like, you have to come and look at the candles at this candle shop. Here's Caitlin Clark. And
How did you not know they were prayer candles? They're wearing like the drape.
Well, I didn't know prayer candles were a thing. They just look like candles to me.
Yeah, it's like
with
what
people
you would have in a church, and you go in and light them and say a prayer. But I have not seen them in robes before.
Yeah, I actually have people who have gotten in touch with me on social media and been upset because somehow it's sacrilegious to have prayer candles with saints or something on them. I don't know. But what makes them so funny to me is not individually. Like an Angel Reese candle, Caitlin Clark, not necessarily funny, but when you have the two of them next to each other after the season that they've just had, plus like the super fan of Ted Lasso, I find them extraordinarily amusing. And so they're in every live shot now I do on SportsCenter from my house.
And they were together in the store too. They had Taylor Swift, they had a bunch of different celebrity options, and I'm pretty sure. I know Caitlin and Angel were together in the store. I think Jason was right near them.
No, he was like right there. And so whoever
I think
put
those
them
are usually
together,
saints, right? Like they usually put the saints on there for prayers. But for us, those are our saints. So I'm going to say they're not sacrilegious because to us, those are people that we love.
Yeah. Has McKylin ever been to the ESPYs or like a black tie or Heisman or like any kind of event like that?
Went to the ESPYs and met Stuart Scott and the men's soccer team. Hung out with them, and then Janelle Monáe danced around our area while I was chatting with Stuart Scott because it was while you famously had just beaten cancer, and then he had gone through a lot, and so we were just talking about that. We were having like a very emotional conversation about that, and then Janelle Monáe was just hopping on a couch next to us, behind us, like the bouncing ball and karaoke, and me and him were both like kind of nonplussed. We were like, "Why is this happening?" But that was a pretty good one. Oh, and we met The Rock, and you nudged me out of the photo with The Rock.
I did not.
You did
a photo, and you came in and photobombed us. He thinks that I.
No, you nudged me out of the photo. But
was she telling The Rock that you look like The Rock at the time, or?
No, that never came up. I think it was before I really started to look like The Rock and bald. So it was pretty looking like The Rock.
He was really nice though. We took a picture and I tweeted it out like, my night's made, I met The Rock. And then he retweeted me and said, sorry, great to meet you. Sorry for the duck lips. Cause he was like, so that was pretty cool.
It was great. That's probably one of my favorite ones.
So when Siobhan is a successful concert promoter, you're going to be like backstage at some cool event, Rebecca, because of her job.
Yeah.
And then that's going to be a full circle moment. So we've already had that full circle moment. We've walked red carpets together, but McKylin was in a movie and we got to go to the movie premiere in LA, American Underdog. And so he walked the red carpet, and the people at the beginning of the red carpet, they wouldn't let me on to walk it with him. So I had to go around behind and meet him. And I'm like, but I'm his mom. He and I have no pictures on the red carpet together.
Did she tell you how to hold your hands while you were posing for the pictures on the red carpet?
Not before, but afterwards she did give me a nice little grilling about why are you so awkward? Because I did a lot of this. I wasn't clasping my hands, but I was just putting one on top of the other one in front of me, like I was hiding my hand, which was bizarre. And you just don't know what to do. And there's people yelling at you, and so there's a lot of
Like when you're not
stuff
accustomed
going
to
on.
walking a red carpet, you have no idea. Like that's always the big thing in any pictures.
Yeah.
What do you do with your hands?
What am I during this podcast, I touch my face, I talk with my hands. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, well,
Not
at least
pro.
you weren't like Rebecca Lobo. You've never seen, I'll post this picture. You've never seen a more awkward hand in a photo. It looks like a cardboard giant hand.
Oh.
It was like a Lego.
And the worst part about it, I think it was my right hand, which has my deformed pinky.
Show the people your finger.
Oh gosh, horrible. No, that's not the worst it can get. That's not the worst it can get.
It gets worse.
Yeah,
But either way, that was my red carpet experience, was the deformed pinky in the awkward pose. And meanwhile, I wanted to go behind the whole time, but you guys wanted to walk the front. So we walked the front, and that's what happened.
Thank you for your sacrifice. That leads us to my next question. This is for the kids. So McKylin, let's start with you, and then Siobhan, you pipe in. It is growing up with a parent who is in the spotlight. How have you guys navigated finding your own thing? Because we dragged you to all the sports. We still drag you to all the sports. How have you both, because I think Siobhan, you have such a great interest in literature and music. McKylin, you have found your passion in acting and writing. How did you guys become who you are without letting us force you into being like sports people or force you into being like who we are?
Well, it's definitely. I mean, I'm noticing because Siobhan, you're not doing sports stuff either. But we go to a similar vein. I think we go to something we want attention, but we don't. But a different kind of attention. And it's not like you guys didn't give us attention, but it's just like when you see somebody in the spotlight and you kind of like respect them and love them and they're your parent, you're like, oh, I want what they have. That sounds like they love it so much and they will miss prom to go do that. So like it's important. Or miss graduation, whatever. So like it's obviously a really important thing. So I want something like that. So I definitely think having a parent in a spotlight makes you kind of like want a little bit of a spotlight of your own in a different way, because you see what it's fun to be that, doing that. You guys have an amazing fun job. So I know I, not consciously, but thinking about it, chose something that's similar, if a little bit different and a little bit less, upstanding, because it's not, reporting on young women doing great things, but it's just making ha-has. But it's, the thing that you're good at, and when you see people be good at stuff, you get better at, trying to be good at it, the things that you're good at as well. So I know that's a big inspiration.
Yeah, definitely. I also think like I want to work, I think, in live music, but more like behind the scenes, and going to all the games with my mom. It's like you're always a part of like a live event, but you're not actually the one in the spotlight. And I feel like, I don't know, I guess again, like you said, like subconsciously maybe that's fueled like where I want to go in the future. I'm not sure. I feel like I've grown up so much around like live events and a lot of stuff with like a lot of excitement and fun. And my parents grew up like they let me go to concerts when I was in like middle school and high school, and a lot of my friends' parents didn't. And I think that's definitely helped me be excited about it too.
So you're grateful that your parents were like, they saw you had a passion about something, and then they poured into that, and they were like, oh, she's passionate about this, we're going to make sure she can do that.
I don't know about make sure, but like they allowed me to. And I know a lot of people's parents just completely like, I don't know why, but just wouldn't allow them to go to concerts until college, until like they were allowed to on their own. Or for us, at least, like most concert venues are like 2 hours away, either in New York or Boston. Closest one's probably Mohegan Sun. So like taking me there when I was younger, or I don't know, allowing me to go with a friend, or like, I mean, I never went by myself, but I feel like kind of always try to like scrounge for some way to get there. I remember like I would always text my aunt, my mom's sister, and be like, can you come to this with me? And stuff like that.
When I was really young, my mom let me watch Beverly Hills Cop. She found another, young black, very successful man and showed me that, people like me could do something. Was there anything like that for you? Like Rebecca, you showed Siobhan because you were like, oh, she likes doing this thing. Let me show her the people who are good at it.
She's born on Christmas, so her birthday or Christmas present, like every year, what she wanted was tickets to a concert. And
Mm.
so it was like, okay, if this is the thing that she wants, and it was never a concert where it felt like she was going to be unsafe.
Yeah.
But you know, like it was more encouraging, that sort of thing.
I love that. Okay, so Siobhan, I wanted to put you on the spot and put your mother on the spot, because McKylin is constantly talking about things that I do that have scarred him for life.
I am not.
Is there anything your mother
It's
has
good
done,
content.
or now that you're older, you're in college and you're like, wow, I didn't understand that then, but I really get it now, and I'm glad she did that. You know, do you have things that you're like, oh, I get it now, or no, that's still ridiculous?
I feel like I get why she'd always like yell at me well, not yell at me, but she'd always get annoyed at me when I was in the kitchen, because now I have 5 roommates, and even if like one other person in the kitchen's fine, we have a really small kitchen. Anyone else, I'm like, okay, I'm not eating for another hour until everybody's out. Like, this needs to wait. So I feel like that has made more sense. Whenever I was little, I'd always be like running around, and I'd be like, hey, like, please just let me cook. So I feel like I understand that now.
You know what's funny, Holly, and you'll appreciate this, because when you would come and visit, anytime you would like fly into Connecticut, we don't live that far from the airport, you would come by and visit. And one year you're decorating pumpkins with the kids, but even when the girls were young, like say Siobhan was 6 and Maeve was 4 or something, and you bring them a gift, they'd be like makeup. And I'm like, Holly, they're not allowed to wear makeup yet. Like, and they still have some of the lip glosses you got them and stuff. But part of that is like, you know, you texted this group before we came on and said, you know, we post some of these clips, so you might want to have some, you know, makeup on or hair done. And I knew that was for me. That was exclusively for me, because Siobhan's going to look good no matter what. So it's one of the things, and I'll be curious with you having a son, if anything in this regard, but like Siobhan, she learned how to put on makeup and do all this stuff, I think probably from watching YouTube videos. Like she has a much better fashion sense than me. Like she just has parts of her that I never had and couldn't teach her, because it's not who I am. And fortunately, like sometimes now I'll send her a picture, be like, is this all right game fit? I sent pictures to Holly and I sent pictures to Siobhan to ask them if what I'm wearing on TV is okay. Were there any things for you when McKylin was like growing up where you're like, oh, I have no idea, I gotta figure this out?
I mean, well, the obvious answer was the first time I tried to change a diaper. I was like, what is this? And what do I do with it? Having boys is hard. That sorry, too much information. TMI. No, boys are hard. And I think when your girls were little, I would buy them stuff. And I remember going school shopping with your kids and going with your girls to Nordstrom Rack and like TJ Maxx, because I didn't ever get to buy girly stuff. You know, like I kind of was sad sometimes that I never got to have a girl also, because I wanted to buy makeup for people and, you know, do girly stuff. Sorry, McKylin, but I would do that with your children.
When they were like 6, you're like, oh, look at this little crop top and this really pretty lipstick.
Not 6, because I remember it. It was probably like 6th or 7th grade. No.
Yes, they were older. They were in, Siobhan was like in 7th grade, because I remember thinking like she was at an appropriate age that she could maybe wear some lip gloss.
I feel like lip gloss you can wear when you're however old. Like it's, I don't know, same thing as like chapstick sometimes.
I still try to make McKylin wear chapstick to this day.
I try to moisturize. It's so funny because I'm so the opposite. I like getting ready for, you were telling me like, make sure you look good. I was like, I don't know what to do that will fulfill what she needs. I was like, I was in the bathroom, I was like shaving. I was like, I'm a little squinty. Oh no.
So that brings me to one other topic I wanted to get to. So Siobhan, I feel like I'm overly critical of McKylin. Do your parents, has your mother been overly critical of you? And if so, how does that impact you? And then Rebecca, you will have your time for rebuttal, just like a presidential debate.
No, I think that she'll agree with this, but I feel like she's, I don't know, this is definitely not a word, but underly critical. Like I'll be like, oh mom, like sometimes I'm looking back on photos from when I was younger. I'm like, why did you let me wear this? Why did you let me look like this? Why did you let me go in public like this? Or like, I'll be like, mom, like, I don't know, like, look at my grades from this semester. She's like, oh, great. And like, they'll be the same grades from another semester where it's like so much worse, not so much worse, but I'm like, oh, like you said, oh, great to both. It's just funny. I'm obviously so grateful. I'd way rather have this than the opposite of like her caring too much about what I do, but sometimes it's just funny because I see my friends' parents and they like track everything they do, or like if you don't get straight A's, straight 100s, then I don't know, like some sort of punishment. And with my mom, it's just like trying your best.
Well,
Which
how
I
about
think
we?
is good, right?
What if we ask this? What can your father be overly critical on? You know what? I mean, exactly where I'm going with it.
My grammar.
Her grammar. Like if she ever says, you know, so and so, and I'm going to the park, or what would be an example when you're supposed to say I instead of me, or if you're supposed to say me instead of I? If she says the wrong one,
He stops me mid-sentence and he corrects me, and then I don't want to finish my sentence because I'm like, okay, well, you just interrupted me. Like, I don't want to like say another thing that's wrong and have you interrupt me again. So then, yeah, my mom's just like, let her finish, Steve. Like,
and what's super interesting is like Siobhan is her father, like maybe not exactly how she looks, but how she sort of takes in the world and who she is. She is very much like her father, and some of her siblings are a little bit more like me than they are like Steve. And that's the interesting part. Like when you have multiple kids, is you're like, oh, this one's like me, and there's good things about that, and there's bad things about that. But Siobhan and Steve, because they're the same person. She's just the female version. They can sometimes go at it a little bit. But Holly, you mentioned she had something published in the school paper a couple of weeks ago, and the pride that I had was enormous. But her father, like, because he's a writer, and so he knows what it's like to have your first byline, and he was just like, I don't know if she knows this and what he said to her, but he was busting at the seams, just so incredibly proud of her and that she was doing this. And it's just such a cool thing to see your kids have success in something that they like. And you know, getting good grades in school is one thing, but like, you know, at her job that she loves working in the promotions department at the radio station and going to concerts and doing all these things. You just get so proud when you think you see them finding their lane and doing it well.
Okay, so you were not a critical parent, is what I'm getting from all this. That's wonderful. Gosh, why? I just wish I had that.
Well, we're more similar. It sounds like it's like a similar thing with Steve. Like we're so similar as people that I think that's why we will, because she does the same thing to me. She'll correct. I'm just different and I'll fight back, but she corrects my grammar all the time as well. And I'll then be like, you interrupted me. I'm going to finish. But it's that same, it's very similar. I think we're just super similar, Mom.
Those are good and bad qualities. So Siobhan, you're talking about you're just like your dad, but you look so much like your mom. How tall are you now? 6'4", 6'3"?
6'2", 6'3", in between 6'2", 6'3".
6'2", 6'3". So you're going through the world and moving through the world looking exactly like this Hall of Famer, Rebecca Lobo. What do people say to you? Like, I'm sure there have been crazy comments through the years. I'm just curious how people react to you in the world.
Yeah, I feel like no one's ever gone up to me and just been like, actually, with one exception, one time when I was younger, I was trick-or-treating as like some athlete. It wasn't my mom. I have no clue who I was trick-or-treating as. And they were like, oh, like, who are you dressed up as, Rebecca Lobo? And I was like, no. It's just like funny because they probably thought because I look so much like you that it was me. But nowhere else has anyone ever come up to me and said I look like her unless they find out that you're my mom, which I think is really interesting. But I also feel like because we know like what dad looks like and what dad's side of the family looks like, I personally think I look a little bit more like him, like features wise. But obviously all my friends, the second they see you, they're like, oh my gosh, you look so much alike. Or my friends' parents will find out that you're my mom and be like, oh, that makes so much sense. They look so much alike. Or even one time my friend's brother was like, oh, your friend really looks like Rebecca Lobo. And she was like, oh, like that's her mom. Like, you didn't know that? And he was like, no. So it's happened a couple of times, but no one's ever come up to me like on the streets or anything. Be like, you look like her.
Holly, do you ever hear yourself saying something that your mom said that was super annoying? And one of the examples I can think of right away is like, my mom used to tell me, like, especially when I was in middle school, high school, and I'm taller than all the boys at the high school dance, or I'm taller than all the boys at school. She's like, don't worry, there'll be tall boys in college, or don't worry, when you out of college, you're going to find there's going to be tall boys. And like, I know I've said that to Siobhan before, and I'm like, oh, I used to hate when my mother said that to me, and that's what I say to her.
Well, I only hate it because it's not true. Like, I mean, yeah, maybe outside of college, but we haven't gotten there yet, so.
Yeah, I think the tall boy market is challenging. McKylin, haven't we been talking about, do you have any tall friends?
Well, most of my, I think the issue is that tall boys kind of flock together. And so if you can't find one, you're not going to find another. I didn't mean for that to rhyme,
That's
but
really
it's true.
funny.
It's like they usually stick around each other. So if you're constantly finding little guys, they also flock together. You're not going to find any big guys with the little guys. So you gotta once we find one big guy for you, we can probably find more.
The problem is the tall guys like then, want to date the little shorty girls. And one of the things that I love is
Yeah.
being at youth sports, and you see like watching the kids when they were younger. You see like the tall guys with their short wives, and they're frustrated because their sons are small. And I'm just
Mm,
like, that's what you get. That's what
that's
you
what
get.
happens. That's how genetics work, big guy.
You should be
That's
dating with
your
an
fault.
eye on your children's genetics.
Seriously,
I
if you want your kid to be a decent athlete and you're a tall guy, find yourself the tall woman.
I feel triggered because
that's
some
the
of us
opposite of
short
what happened.
people
Yep.
are.
But you provided some good genes, good genes.
Yeah. Look at these cheeks.
Look at these cheeks. I mean, seriously, come on.
I know my mom, this is kind of an offshoot, but I know, Mom, you're super proud of like coaching junior jazz and coaching my soccer when I was younger. Rebecca, did you coach any of Siobhan's sports, or was that more of a Steve job? And how were you as a coach?
More of a Steve Jobs.
Mm,
I
nice.
coached all the kids in
Oh
basketball
yeah.
from like at their little elementary school. They started in second grade. And so I coached them like from second to eighth grade, and then they're off. Like when they're in high school, I feel like, first of all, they have no interest in having me coach them anymore, except for my son. He's okay with it. So I still coach him, but like I coached all the girls, and like I think that went okay. I think they enjoyed it for the most part. Siobhan stopped playing basketball after her freshman year in high school, but played volleyball. And volleyball is a great sport for me to watch because I had no idea what the rules were, so I couldn't like get upset at calls or whatever was happening. I'm like, oh, they blew their whistle. I wonder why.
How was she as a coach, Siobhan?
I think she was a good coach. I don't know. I feel like no complaints on that end. I don't know, Mom. Do you remember me complaining?
Not more than any other seventh or eighth grader. Like it gets to the point where they don't want to listen to you as a coach or as a mom. They don't want to listen to you doing anything. The one thing I can remember, and I don't know if you'll remember this, Siobhan, I was coaching you and it was a travel game. It may have been an AAU game. You were maybe seventh or eighth grade. And I just remember like at one point you like went up for a layup or something and you got your shot blocked. Like who cares? That happens in basketball. And there was like a way too loud sort of ovation from the other team's parents for a seventh or eighth grader getting their shot blocked. And it took me a few seconds, and then it settled in that, oh, they're cheering not because Siobhan got her shot blocked, but because Rebecca Lobo's daughter just got her shot blocked, kind of a thing. And it
God.
was the first time it like hit home to me, like, oh, that kind of stinks. Like I wonder if she even internalizes any of that. But I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think I did. I feel like I would remember that if I did.
Oh, so you're not,
Yeah.
you don't remember it and you're not scarred for life.
No, not Scar for Life. I feel like I didn't even realize it in the moment. It's not, yeah.
That's probably
that's
Oh,
good.
good. I realized it. I remembered it, and I was like, okay, if we see any of these parents outside, I was so mad.
She's scarred for life.
I'm
I had
scarred for life.
one. I had one really embarrassing coaching moment. So the kids were in junior high school, and we were playing at McKylin. You'll remember this, Mueller Park Junior High, and this kid kept fouling you and like really aggressively, and he knocked you down a couple of times. And I was getting upset, and I'm kind of like saying something to the rest, like, hey, that's, they're really physical. And I don't think I was usually obnoxious, but this particular game, this kid was just beating you up. And so at one point, this kid shot an air ball, and like, I still to this day blush in shame, but I, as loud as I could, I'm like, air ball. And, and, as soon as it's out of my mouth, they're
Seventh
like,
grade.
yeah, seventh grade. And as soon as it's out of my mouth, I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably shouldn't have been that parent. And I just remember being so embarrassed for myself, but I was so mad. Like, I don't know if there's anything greater than a mother's defense of her children. Like that feeling when you think someone's done something wrong to your kid. I just remember feeling rage. Do you remember that, Matt?
I do remember that, and I feel it's so funny because I was bullying that kid verbally because he was bigger than me. but we were post. I was the biggest kid, so I had to post up with him, and he had some size on me, so I couldn't physically stop him in any way. And so I was like, well, if he's focusing on fouling me, he's not going to play good defense. We just harassed a child together as a team, and I think that is awesome.
The amazing thing is that kid, that seventh grader, so like 12-year-old, after the game told his mom that kid was bullying me. And she was probably like, yeah, did you hear his mom in the stands?
It comes
Oh
from the
my
home.
gosh.
No wonder he's a bully. Did you hear
Hey,
the mom? Oh
maybe we inspired him to be a great basketball player.
Oh,
Your mother is one of the most competitive people that I know, sometimes in like the weirdest places. Like,
Yeah.
Holly, can we slow down? You don't have to beat me to the gate in the airport terminal or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
just sometimes irrationally competitive. I think Holly would agree with that. Just curious, do you have that trait, or in what ways did you see that competitiveness when you were a kid?
I actually just recently had the I was hanging out with my girlfriend last night, and we did some joke, and I wouldn't stop having the last joke. We were just doing this dumb bit of saying it's like, oh, I was flying, and it was just words that ended with ing, just verbs. And it went on for like 15 minutes because she would think of one and I would have one ready. And it went on for so long. And then afterwards I was like, I just was kind of, and she was like, okay, you win. And afterwards, I was like, I felt so happy that I had won. I was like in the bathroom, and I was like, I won. And I was like, why does that matter? It's nobody's here.
It's super helpful to your relationship.
It's super
so
healthy.
I have a theory for this, and I really do believe in this, is because like if you ever look at us, one of my favorite things that we've ever done together, Rebecca, is one time we're working an event and you had a malfunction with your dress, like your zipper was broken or there was a hole in your dress. And so I had to pull a dress out of my bag. And, if you're to look at us, we are two vastly different looking women, size-wise, all the things. But you were able to fit in my dress and wear my dress for the broadcast. And I just
that was Minneapolis. We were doing a Lynx game a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just remember thinking, like, you go through the world as this big, tall person, and things are just easier. You can just reach up in the overhead compartment and get your luggage out. You can just reach up in a shelf in the kitchen. Everything is a fight for me. Like, I am constantly having to fight just because of my size. Don't you think you have size privilege in this country?
Well, first of all, let's go back to your competitiveness, because when that happened and I borrowed your dress, you had worn it 2 days before and you posted on social media afterwards who wore it better. And you had a picture of you,
There
like,
it is.
filling out the dress in ways that I simply can't. And then the picture of me. But no, yeah, you bring up those things. There are a lot of things, and Siobhan, I'm sure, would agree with this. First of all, buying clothes, buying shoes that are much easier for those of you who fit into the fabric than those of us who don't. Like, you can get things hemmed. We cannot get fabric added. You can, find shoes in your size. Like, sometimes you wear the cutest shoes with these big chunky heels. I'm not trying to be 6'7" or 6'8". So I'm like looking for something that's cute, that fits. Poor Siobhan will say, like, there's only so much that looks cute. She and I have the same size foot. There's only so much that looks cute on there. So yes, we can reach things on the top shelf. And I often at the grocery store, I'm asked by somebody else, can you get that down for me? But I think you actually, the smaller people of the world, this world is designed
It is
for,
built for you guys.
Yes, it's built for them.
Well, I think that's why I feel competitive, though, is like I'm always having to catch up and be bigger because I'm just not big. Like I'm trying to excuse my psycho competitiveness is really what I'm doing.
I mean, you can walk through doors easier. Cars are easier. Planes. Just most chairs or places of comfort are made for smaller people.
Places of comfort. That's a great phrase.
Everywhere that is a thing that is built for your comfort is made for a small person, and then we can get stuff off shelves. So which one?
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of life is easier.
The other thing I wanted to hit before we get out of here is how do you guys navigate? So, a mother and an adult child, how do you guys navigate just like keeping your relationship good? Like we talked about, she calls you a couple times a week, but how do you guys make sure that you are really communicating in life and really being there and having a great relationship?
I had a really good relationship with my mom, and I didn't like know at the time why it was good. But now that when I became a parent, I looked back on it a lot more. And I think one of the reasons was she was a great listener, and she was okay sometimes as a kid when I needed there to be silence. You know, sometimes when kids are growing up, they don't want to be talking a ton. I'm experiencing that a lot with my son right now. Like he doesn't really speak. The girls do a little bit more. But I just want to be a good listener for them, like because sometimes they really want they need to say things, and you know we had an experience maybe a week or two ago, and Siobhan called me and she was stressed out, right? Like she was stressed out about exams and just stuff going on, and I felt bad, and I said this to her. I said I don't I feel bad because I don't have good advice for you right now because this isn't how like I operate. I don't get anxious sometimes, and sometimes she can, and 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 then I felt, I'm like, what do I say? What do I do? Like, I don't know. And so I think sometimes that's the hardest thing as a parent is when your kid, you know, and sometimes maybe it's just to be silent and be there for them, is like they're going through something and you can't help them. You know, I don't know how, like, and I think sometimes that's okay. They just want somebody to FaceTime with them for 30 minutes while they're bored. They don't even need you to give like the solution. And I think as parents, sometimes we're like, I got to help them. I've got to make this better. And even when we can't.
I think that that's something I struggle with is I listen to fix it. Like I'm taking in the information and I'm like, but okay, but can we, you know, like listening to fix instead of really just listening to understand or let them get it off their chest. Would you say that's right, McKylin?
That's very true. That is 100%. And I'm the same way. So I think that's just our families kind of lives in that fix it competitive, like we could do better kind of area. And we've definitely we're learning how to not do that.
All right. Okay, Siobhan, as you're older, why do you think, give me one example of something that your mom has done that you're really grateful for, that maybe when you were younger, you didn't know or you weren't aware of it, and now you're like, wow, that is amazing. And my mom is amazing.
I feel like, I mean, I think this is from you, Mom, that like, I mean, this is so cliche, but like just being nice to everybody. Like sometimes I feel like I'm just people, like I'll just be interacting with people and like they can't seem to understand like, I don't know, the other side of an argument or something. Maybe sometimes this is like a fault of mine, is like I'm like, oh, like I'm thinking too much of like what if I was in their shoes, and it's like, don't think about that. There's obviously like a right and wrong here. But I feel like sometimes I'm all like, when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, like this person's annoying me so much, or this is annoying me so much, and she'll be like, well, like, did you do something wrong in that sense? And I'm like, it was annoying at the time because I'm like, just be on my side. But now I'm like, I see people that I don't know, don't ever like think that way and just think that they're always right in every sense. And I'm like, okay, that's probably my parents' way of raising me.
Yeah, your mom is really good. You do this with me too, Rebecca, is like you're pragmatic. That word pragmatic of like you can listen and take in the information and then you'll ask questions like, well, how did that make you feel? Why did that upset you? Or like you'll talk me off the ledge a lot because you're really calm with how you're processing information.
I think sometimes too with Siobhan, like she would come home and there would be things that would have happened at school with people or even in college. And sometimes I'd be like, there's probably a reason that person is reacting that way. And it's not right and it's not okay, but there's probably something going on in their life that's making them be less than what they should be. And she hated to hear that when she was in high school. Right. Because she just wanted, she just wanted me on her side. And I was on her side. Of course I was, but I would also be like, you know, you know a little bit about this person, you know their story, that's probably what's feeding this behavior. And but that's not what she wanted to hear then, but I'm glad it's helped her be able to see
I feel like
things.
I understand that now at least a little more. And I'm just like, okay, like maybe it's just a tactic to make myself not be as annoyed at the situation. Be like, oh, well, there's a reason, so don't be mad at it. But in high school, I'd be like, oh, like don't play devil's advocate right now.
Just be on my side. Just be on my side. Okay, McKylin, I'm going to put you on the spot. Before we let them go, I just wanted you to tell the one funny story about the time that you first met Siobhan and Rebecca.
Well, maybe okay. Just in the future, let's team up on this before we.
You don't remember it?
I remember this story. Poor McKylin being put in a car, falling asleep and waking up where he didn't expect to wake up.
Oh, is that what you want for the story? Because okay. Yeah, you didn't tell me where we were going, and I got into a car with you, and I fell asleep,
In Connecticut,
and I woke up in Connecticut, with I thought we were going home, and then I woke up at like a family home, and I knew Rebecca, but we walked in, and there's just like four young kids running around, and Steve, and I was like, what's happening? Why are we here? What is going on? And you proceeded to just dote on the children and like start conversations. And I was like, I don't, what? And that went on for like an hour or two. And then we got back in the car and you're like, wasn't that fun? And I was like, yeah. And we left. And it was fun. It was like a dream. It was like it didn't happen.
It was a dream sequence.
It was a dream sequence.
In my defense, or I guess in your defense, you were exhausted and we were supposed to go to a hotel and check in to fly out the next morning, and we were near their house. I'm like, I'll just pop over and say hello quickly and we'll have dinner. But you were asleep in the car, so I told you none of it. And so you wake up, and when I say Rebecca's house is busy, the dog, 4 kids running around, and you had just woken up and you were like, what is happening? But we proceeded to play heads up. And I was so proud because you and Steve crushed us in the word game. And I remember being like, oh, that's my kid. He knows words.
Their brains bonded.
We mind melded.
Yes.
We have chaos theory.
Oh, explain to them what it is. They don't know.
Okay.
Right, well, so I have a hat. It says butter. Just so you know. And I'm gonna just pull out. I wrote some random stuff down. I'm gonna pull it out. We're gonna talk about it for a minute, and then you guys get to enjoy your Tuesday. Which I don't know what that would be, but you get to enjoy your Tuesday.
Why we started this game is when he was a kid, we watched a movie called Chaos Theory, and then we started living our lives like that. So anytime we had time off and would be like, hey, what do you want to do today? We would each put 3 things in a hat. We would pull it out, and the Chaos Theory would just go with whatever we pulled out of the hat. So we do that on the podcast because that was kind of our family tradition for many years.
Yep. So this is a pretty lame one, but because we're having some guests over, I wanted to ask you guys, how was it in your house when you had guests over? Who was the problem? Who always had a dirty room? What was the biggest issue with the having guests over? Did you guys have guests over less because of these issues? Et cetera, et cetera.
Go ahead, Siobhan.
I feel like my mom, like, she goes to bed very early, so the guests over would be for like, a lunch or something, or a dinner that started at 4 p.m. So you guys never really had guests over like at night. I mean, it's true. But a lot of times, I don't think anyone was really necessarily the problem. Maybe when we were all really little, probably all of us were, but now I don't think there's one sibling that's causing issues or anything. I think just the only thing is that if guests are over, like they kind of have to leave by, what would you say? Like 9, absolute latest. I don't think I've ever seen you awake past them.
When you have young kids, the best friends to have over are the ones who also have young kids. And there's one family they're like, we're not going to wait until we've gone past the point where our kids are like miserable. So we'd have them over at like 4. By 7:30, they're home, they're gone, and then you can get your kids into their bedtime. But
as a guest who has come over, I would sleep over, and I was always really grateful. Siobhan would go and clean her room, clean her bathroom, and she would always let me have her room. So thank you, Siobhan.
Of course.
Yeah, the full-size Niall Horan cutout on the wall.
That's the only way I learned about One Direction was from sleeping in Siobhan's room with all of her posters around.
Education.
This is my favorite one. And then we'll be done. How involved is your mom in your dating life?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I feel like semi. I don't know. You take this question, Mom.
Well, I'm there if she wants to talk to me about her dating life. On occasion, I'll say I'll ask her if there's anything going on. And then if she wants to share with me, I'll listen. If she doesn't, I step back. But that's because she's never dated somebody who I haven't liked. If she ever dates someone that I don't like, that would be a good time to ask us that question.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So we got to check back in.
Why? How involved in your dating life is your mother, McKylin?
Very. We're going to Thanksgiving at your house. But it's good. It's good. I mean, it's weird. There's only two of us, so I mean, it'd be weird if it was just like, oh, you haven't met her. It's been a year. But so
I know. I think I met one of your girlfriends after like you'd been dating her for 4 or 5 days, and you're like, it's too soon. And I'm like, just bring her. We're here. We're having dinner. Just bring her. And you were like mortified.
And then we broke up because you're like, I hate her. So Siobhan, get ready for that.
And Siobhan, I do want to call bull bleep on one thing. No one is nosier about my dating life than your mother, Rebecca Lobo.
Oh, I bet.
And I have tried to be like, I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you that. And she's like, come on, tell me. So no one in this world knows more secrets about me than Rebecca Lobo. I hope you'll take those to your grave, Rebecca, but you are the nosiest person I know when it comes to other people's dating lives.
In fairness, I don't say, come on, tell me. I just like a little bit later will ask a question that leads you to tell me.
I would say you're prod. You prod. The only thing you don't have is like a cattle prod. You just prod and pick away until I reveal my soul.
Only because I know you want to tell me, and you just sometimes need me to prod in order for you to tell me these things.
So McKylin, if anything ever happens to me and you want to know things in my life, ask Rebecca. She knows everything about
me. You just told me I can't tell anybody.
Yeah, that's.
Well, I'm alive.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so you're dead in this game. Well, at that point, maybe don't tell me. I think we'll keep it happy. I don't want to know the secrets she knows. I don't want.
You don't want to know. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. You are our first guest on Call Your Mom. Please check out Rebecca Lobo on ESPN as our lead women's basketball analyst. She also has a wonderful podcast with her son, Steve Rush, or not her son. That would be your husband.
That would be weird.
That would be weird if your son was your ball and chain. Check out their podcast, Ball and Chain. Siobhan is now a bylined writer, a real writer for her school newspaper. She's going to be big time promoter, marketing, everything on the concert scene. Thank you for joining us today. Give me your last mic drop advice as a child and as a parent of for anyone who's listening on what makes a good relationship between parents and children.
I say listen to your mom, even if you don't want to, because when you're older, you will probably appreciate it.
I say the same thing listen to your mom as a woman who lost her mom in 2011. And I think I had the best mom in the world. But the reason she was the best mom in the world is because she was willing to listen to me as a kid. So that would be my advice.
All right. McKylin, did you hear that part where they said, listen to your mom?
My advice would be call your mom. Always call your mom. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you. We'll see you when we see you.
All right. Love you all. Thank you for joining us. And we'll talk to you again soon.